Hey, my friend. Welcome to our October 2024 overview. Welcome to Keeping It Real with Sidereal. I'm Danny Simonis, and in this video, we are going to talk all about what is going on in our sky for the month of October in Sidereal Astrology. So, we've got our sun currently in Virgo. We are going to move into Libra. We've got we've got our first solar eclipse, our annular solar eclipse in Virgo. We've got our full moon coming up. We've got our Libra season coming. We've got Jupiter going retrograde. We've got our 1010 portal. My friend, we've got lots to talk about. So let's go ahead and dive in. If you are new here, welcome. I'd invite you to subscribe to the channel so that way you know when we have new videos coming out, because we have these weekly videos that come out. First off, we have the overview where we talk about everything that's happening for the month, which we're going to do in just a moment. And then every week I break down what's happening for that week. So that comes out on Mondays. And then we have a new live on the channel now called Magic Monday, which is all about getting your energy ready, getting cleared for the week ahead. And those are live streamed here on the channel. So we've got lots of stuff happening here. And if you are catching this on the Cosmic Mystic podcast, yes, my friend, we do have this in a podcast version. So you can go on over to your favorite platform, or you might just be here on YouTube. And we have the Sidereal Astrology Forecast, our overview forecast, as well as guest interviews and solo episodes with me talking about spiritual journeys, insights into the current season, and so much more. So anything on your spiritual path, business path, personal growth and development, we've got it all here, my friend. So again, make sure you are following us here on the channel and on the podcast. And remember that you can always take me with you, whatever way you want. Okay, let's go ahead and dive in. Beginning with our state of where everybody is as we kick off this new month. So, we're going to start with where is everybody? I do this every week with the weekly forecast, but we're going to start here on October 1st, right before our solar eclipse in Virgo, which we'll talk about in a moment. But as we kick off this new month, we've got our sun here at 14 degrees Virgo. We've got Mercury at 15 degrees Virgo. So those guys are hanging out pretty close. We'll talk about that. We've also got our south node here in Virgo. Our moon is currently at 8 a.m. in this particular moment here at in Virgo, preparing for that solar eclipse. We've got Mars over here in Gemini. We've got Jupiter over here in Taurus, and it's about to go retrograde. We'll talk more about that. It's going retrograde later this month. We've also got Uranus here in Taurus, who is retrograde. Chiron here, who's retrograde in Pisces. We've got our North Node in Pisces. We've also got Neptune retrograde in Pisces, Saturn retrograde in Aquarius, and Pluto is over here retrograde in Capricorn. And finally, we've got Venus over here in Libra. So we will see Venus moving out of Libra and into Scorpio coming later this month. So let's go ahead and dive in with our sun. You know, I always like to do this in segments. So we're going to start with our sun. We're going to move into our moon, and then we're going to move into our inner planets. So Mercury, Mars, Venus, and then we'll talk about that Jupiter retrograde and the 1010 portal. So let's dive in with some of the major aspects that we're seeing here with the sun. So, as we begin, we've got this connection here to Mercury. We've got this conjunction. And so, we've had this conjunction building, and then we finally have it here. It started at the in September, and we saw it coming through the end of September, getting closer. And here we are really seeing it in its full expression here at the beginning of October. So we've been talking about this. So I'm just going to remind you there's lots of thoughts here, lots of thinking. You might have some insights, some new perspectives on things, on how you can do things or how you can create some way of doing something, some new way of doing something, new processes, procedures, especially as it relates to routines and rituals in your personal life and in your business. So the way that your things are flowing. There's lots going on there. And then I want to talk about this square over here to Mars that kicks off right here on the 1st. And we're going to see this all the way through October, all the way till the 24th. So right up until that very last week of October, we're going to see this energy. And so I want to talk about this because whenever we're talking about Mars, there is a lot of warrior energy here. There's a lot of battling, competitiveness, impulsiveness. We can see ego conflicts, people asserting power, and it could be a little reckless and aggressive. And so, this energy, as we're moving through this month, and in particular, here in the US, we are in an election year. And election years are always interesting years, let's just say. In particular, with this Sun square Mars here, as we're leading up into that election period, and this one in particular is quite intense already. I'm going to anticipate that there is going to be more and more and more of this energy coming through. So I say this because I am not somebody that watches the news. I'm pretty sure you're not somebody that watches the news either, or you limit your viewing on that. I would highly recommend to avoid as much of it as you possibly can. Avoid social media as much as you can over the next month because there could be some battling that is happening. And as we are kicking off this particular month here, we do already kind of hear some things that are coming up and stirring up already as we kick off this month. And so I just want you to pay attention. Pay attention to what is happening and not people's beliefs, ideas about what is happening, especially with us leading up into this election here in November. There's a lot. And I know for me that there's a lot of noise, which is one of the reasons why I created Breathe with Danny. And it was something I thought I'd do later on, maybe the beginning of 2025. But because of all the energy that's currently going on right now, there is peace needed, peace within ourselves so that we can express the peace outside in our inner world. All peace, and I have this behind me, inner peace begins. Like in order for us to have peace, we've got to have the inner peace. And so Breathe with Danny is all about getting into that inner peace and clearing out what is no longer needed. And as I've been recording these, I've found that they're much more of a healing, like a mini healing that's happening with each and every one of them. As a matter of fact, in one of the ones that I recorded recently, there's light language that came through. Not something that I had anticipated happening, but because everything I do is through the Akashic Records, the light language wanted to come through and it had a message for those that are listening to it. And so I say all of that to say, my friend, that there could be some intenseness that is happening over this next month. And I don't want you to get overwhelmed by it. I don't want you to get caught up in it. So I'm giving you the foresight here to let you know that this is potential, right? Anything is potential. All energy is potential. So this is potential. How you choose to work with it is completely up to you. If you choose to find the peace, you will see the peace. If you choose to step into joy or ease or love, then you will see that, my friend. If you choose to get caught up in the impatience, in the ego conflicts, in the irritability, in the aggressiveness, then my friend, you're going to see it. I will say, there could be some defensiveness here. So, people either going on defense or you finding yourself having to be in a defensive position. So, whatever it is that is needing to be resolved. I've heard from many of my clients talking about these little, right? They seem so little and so subtle. Um, Conflicts, communication conflicts. And I'm going to tell you that those can increase unless we do something about it. One of my favorite books that I read last year was Brene Brown, Dare to Lead. I mention this book all the time because there's one piece in there that completely changed my perspective, and that was clear is kind. I often think that I hesitate or I wait or I don't say all the things because I think I'm being kind. But one of the things that I've learned in that book is the more clear you can be, the more honest, the more direct you can be about something, the kinder you actually are being. And so I'm going to bring this in here for you as a reminder. I'm going to remind you to pin it somewhere where you can see it. That clear is kind. There's no reason for us to get into story. There's no reason for us to assume things. Let's be clear and let's be kind. All right, let's move on. Last thing I want to say about that before we move into June, the trine with Jupiter that's coming in on the 8th and the opposition to Chiron is that with this Mars energy, Mars is always very volatile and there's a lot of pent up energy. And so there's the releasing that needs to happen. So you can come join us for Magic Monday and do that through some breath work. You can come join us inside Cosmic Alignment. It's one of the reasons why Cosmic Alignment is happening this month as well. It comes out on the 14th is when we first begin. And we do daily breath work in that program as well as looking at the subconscious beliefs that are pulling us off of our path so that we can really stay on our path and achieve what it is that we desire as we begin this end of the year. We are in fourth quarter, my friend. We have moved into fourth quarter, and this is the opportunity for us to, really keep our focus on what is most important and, not just, shut it down because it's the holidays. And so, whatever you're wanting to manifest in this next 90 days, cosmic alignment is there to support you, there to help you, and how to work with the universal laws. Okay, so release this energy how you see fit. For some of you, this might be physical action or activities. So a sport, running, a physical like yoga, Pilates, things like that are always good. You might just need to go outside and go for a walk, but there's usually a physical movement that's needed here. All right, let's take a look at this Jupiter trine and this opposition to Chiron. So the trine with Jupiter is really a beautiful connection. There's a lot of growth and opportunity here, good fortune. We're a little bit more generous with our time, and our perspective is more adventurous and confident and more open. And so, even though we have this in the background with Mars, we have right here for about 11 days or so, we've got this period in here with Jupiter where it's just bringing a little bit of a softness to things. There's a lot of lucky influence here when the sun is trine Jupiter, even more so when it's conjunct. But right here, we're really feeling this really nice, like breath of fresh air, I'm going to say. So we might kick off this week. It might get a little intense, and then we might feel this little pre for a bit with this Sun trine Jupiter. And then we have the opposition here with Chiron. So let's talk about this opposition with Chiron, because Chiron is always bringing in those past wounds. It's always bringing in the traumas that may be underneath the surface. Well, here they're coming up. They're coming to the surface. It's coming for us to face the facts, to heal the unresolved wounds. And what I love about this is an opportunity, right? Because there's things that we don't know. One of the really can be really frustrating is the subconscious ideas or the subconscious beliefs, the paradigms that we have, whether that's from this lifetime or another lifetime, my friend. In my perspective of the world, the model at which I see the world and the universe, the divine source creation, the way that I see it works is, this isn't our first rodeo, and we want to get even deeper into this, that there is no past and no future. There is only the present. And so we have the ability to take a look at some of those experiences that we've had where we've created these belief systems around them, and we have the ability to clear them out on different timelines and in different periods, let's say. So this is coming to the surface because we can't see these things, right? We don't know. This is held within the subconscious. We don't have consciousness for it. But during this period here, from October 8th through the 19th, we're going to see that rise. And so for some of us, that's going to agitate some things, right? That's going to make us not feel so good. And, not all healing is rainbows and sunshines. The spiritual journey is a journey into the depths, it's into the dark, and to come out into the light. And so I say that to say that there could be some feelings that are coming forward for you during this time, especially around insecurity and overcompensating for maybe something that you've been kind of pushing away, maybe even things of not feeling truly appreciated for what you are bringing to the table, especially around relationships in particular, because we'll be moving into Libra season with this, and as well as some of your deepest fears. So pay attention to that, do some journaling, do some deeper work with that, because you can definitely move through that energy. All right. And then on the 16th, we have a Libra season beginning. So on 10/16, our sun will move into the beautiful energy of Libra. And I believe it is actually later in the day where we're going to see this, because it's at 29 degrees there. And so when we move into Libra season, this is an air season. So Virgo was earth. Now we move into air. And when we move into air, this is where the energy, it gets a little bit more mental. So right now we do have a lot of mental energy because of that Mercury with the sun, the conjunction with the Mercury and the sun. But when we move into Libra, it's going to amplify that even more. So, all of my air friends, all of my fellow Libras, and those of you that are in Gemini or even Aquarius, if you have any prominent air energy or your sun, moon, or rising sign are in any air element, this is more of your vibe, more of your energy. For those of us with earth and more earth and water, this season can be a little bit more difficult because there's just a lot of movement. Things are flowing, where Virgo was very grounded, which really helped us dig in and get things done. Libra, the air energy wants to move, okay? And it's so Libra's really beautiful because it wants to bring in that balance and harmony into our life. There's this equality that likes to come through here. There's the appreciation of others. There's a lot around partnerships and relationships. So in particular, your partner, maybe whatever you've partnered with. So whether we're talking about, your spouse or your life partner, or maybe you're talking about a friendship, or maybe even something you partner with. So for those of you that are partnering with other businesses, so let's say those joint venture opportunities or collaborations, those connections, right? Those partnerships that you are coming into, that's where this highlight is going to be for us through this period from October 16th all the way through November 15th. So, Libra season is just a really beautiful season that I invite you to explore your relationships. I invite you to explore what you're partnering with and even who you're partnering with. And again, that doesn't necessarily mean it's on a love relationship, right? Or your intimate partner. It can be partnering with ideas, partnering with communities, partnering with organizations. All right. And then we have on the 16th here, you might have seen this come in here with Pluto. We've got this square over here to Pluto. And so let's talk about the sun and Pluto. So I do want to remind you that the sun will have now moved into Libra. We still have this Mars over here. We've still got this Jupiter for just a couple more days as we step into this energy with Pluto. Now, Pluto is going to bring more energy here, more strength, more motivation to work hard. Again, Pluto is a very powerful planet, so we could see the power struggles amplified here. We could also see more ego conflicts because we're dealing with that very power, control, manipulation, or manipulative energy coming through with the Sun square Pluto. So you can see we've got Mars and Pluto, they're in opposition to each other. And it's right at here at this point, they're not quite in the orb that I would say would be in opposition, but they're very, very close here. And so we will see these two move into an opposition, which is gonna be a little intense, let's just say. The last thing I will say though with Pluto is because we have that power, because we have that control, energy, not strength, we can use this energy to eliminate those bad habits, to eliminate the destruction that we may be causing in our life. So, again, whether we're looking at this, I never look at things as good or bad. I always look at things as they are, and it's just the energy that I want to put into it. So I love that I'm going to have some more energy, some more strength, and some more motivation to do some work. And I also love that I'm going to be able to release some of these bad habits and release some of these destructive things that I'm doing in my own life. And I also know that I'll have awareness around my own ego. I'll have awareness around struggles that I may be having with power or even self esteem. All right. And then finally, coming in at the very, very end of our month on the 30th, we are going to see the sun trine Saturn. So Saturn's coming in here on the 30th, and it will move, it'll be in this energy through the first week of November. So with Saturn, we're always looking at responsibility and patience, determination, persistent, right? That's that Saturn energy. And so setting goals that are realistic, that are more practical is generally what we're going to see here as we kick off this November month. Relationships with the masculine energy, men or superiors, things being more serious here, and wanting to lead or guide people. Achievement and recognition are extremely important, and you may even feel like some responsibility. And what I love about this is here is like we always get this feeling of like, passing on our knowledge to the younger generation or to those who are coming after us and whatever that might be, and being able to be that mentor or that guide. And so this will bring a nice set of groundedness to the sun when we enter this trine at the end of the month. All right, let's shift out of the sun and let's shift into the moon. So, a couple of things that I want to talk about here is first off, we have our solar eclipse in Virgo on the 2nd, and this is going to be right here at 1:48 p.m. on PM in Central Time. And so, the new moon in Virgo, first off, anytime we're talking about an eclipse, we are talking about the energy. The way I view it is there's these portals that are opening, just very similar to like our 1010 portal that is coming up on the 10th. But we have this, there's like this opportunity here. Now, with eclipses, I wouldn't say it's not the best time to do any type of ritual around calling things in or manifesting. Although, what I will say is the energy can be a little wonky. It can be a little kind of all over the place. And so it's not really the focused energy that we would really like to see when we are wanting to call something in or create some energy around something. So what I see this energy as is these portals that open and an opportunity for us to close things out, for us to seal the door and to like release it into the ether, so to speak. I mentioned this to a client of mine, that if there was anything that she wanted to release during this time, to like, it's almost as if you're putting it in the trash can, and then the trash guy is coming and taking it away. It's kind of like that, right? The trash can is that portal and the eclipse is the trash guy taking it away. So if that's a good visual for you, there you go. But it's this idea of like aligning with something that is familiar, but also something new, because we have a couple of things happening here. And I want to touch on this really quick here, is that we have the conjunction with Mercury. We also have the conjunction over here with the South Node. So this is that alignment of what is familiar, what feels good, right? And bringing in those strengths of what is familiar. And then also over here with this opposition in with our north node is where we're heading. It's where our soul wants to evolve into. And so it's that energy of like, oh, this new possibility, this new thing. And with this square over Mars, there may be a little agitation of like, I'm done. I'm done with this. I'm ready to move on to something new. I'm tired of this cycle. And so, in particular, this Virgo eclipse energy we had last year with our solar eclipse in Virgo. And so you can look at anything in the past year that may have transpired for you that is around some of these themes that Virgo rules over, which is our health, our daily routines and rituals, the way that we go about our day to day. And for me, there's a lot in there, right? Who I interact with, the things that I'm doing, the way that I'm interacting with my world. And so, there's a lot that you can look at with here. Now, you can also look at the bigger cycle of this, which was back in 2005 and 2006. So in 2005 and 2006, we also had a pairing of a solar eclipse in Virgo. So you can go back to even that time and say, what has transpired? What were the themes of that were going on back then? And how are they showing up for me now in this current cycle? And because we're on that second year here, this is a really good opportunity to finally close the door on some of these things that you've been carrying, my friend, since 2005, and you may have been carrying since 1996 when we had the last solar eclipse in Virgo. So we can look at these again. This is why I love astrology. This is why I love nature, because we have these cycles, we have these rhythms that we go through, and we can see how much we have progressed, what has shifted for us, and what is still holding us back when we look at these bigger cycles. So if you're I like to look at this particular, solar eclipse as the opportunity to kind of close the doors, close the access to those things that we no longer want. So you can look at it as I'm setting the intention to releasing those things, just as you would under a full moon. Okay, let's go ahead and dive into our next one, which will be our full moon. Okay, so now we take a look at our full moon, which takes place on the 17th at 6:26 a.m. Central Time. And you can see we have all the same players here. The only difference we have, because we've talked about all of these so far, our square to Mars, our trine to Jupiter, our square over here to Pluto, and our opposition with Chiron. The only difference we have is the sun and moon are now in opposition and Chiron is conjunct the moon. So the way that this energy is influencing the moon here is there is an opportunity for us to release, to let go of some of those wounds and those traumas as it relates to females in our life. This can also be mothers, this can be around ancestral lineages or ancestral lines. And so, especially with the females or the women in our family, because we're talking about the moon, we are talking about that mothering, nurturing energy. So, even if it isn't the women in your life, it's whoever maybe had that nurturing energy around you that maybe some of these old wounds are coming up. And maybe they weren't that nurturing, loving energy. Maybe they didn't give you that idea, or maybe there's been some issues since then that are wanting to be resolved. And so with this we can release some of those patterns that we may have had around some relationships as it relates to women. One of the things that the guardians are really wanting me to emphasize here is this can also be around friendships. So if you are somebody who has had female relationships, with whether that is, you're a male or female, and you've had these relationships and you just, you've had problems, you've had struggles, you've had challenges. I know for a long time I've had struggles with female relationships. This is an opportunity, right, for us, for me in particular, as I look at this, to make some shifts around that, to release any connections that I might have. And so a really good past life healing around maybe any past female relationships that you've had, or friendships that you've had where you've been betrayed or you've been hurt or discounted in some way, taken advantage of. This is an opportunity for you to kind of look at that and release any of that energy, or any of those mother wounds or women in your life. So this is a really nice opportunity here, especially because we are entering the holiday seasons, my friend. And there it can be for somebody who may have awakened or is in the awakening, and family can be a little bit more challenging, right? Especially if this is a newer place for you and you're trying to come from this very conscious place, but you're talking to people who aren't doing their inner work, and it can be very challenging, right? I know this. I'm sure you do too. I'm sure you've encountered it. And it can be really easy to fall back into those patterns and fall back into the way that you've handled those relationships in the past. And so this right here is an opportunity for you to look at some of those patterns, look at some of those things and say, how do I want to now choose to do this? How do I want to choose to navigate through these relationships moving forward? Okay, let's go ahead and move forward. We're going to keep on trucking here, my friend, and we're going to talk about Mercury. So we've got Mercury here in, as we kick off this month, we've got Mercury in Virgo, right? Mercury moved into Virgo at the end of September on the 22nd. And then Mercury is going to be moving into Libra on the 9th. So let's go over and look at this shift when Mercury moves into Libra. So, whoops, I'm on the wrong time. And if you did not know, I do not record these and edit these. They are one take, my friend. So if you hear me doing something or see me doing something wrong, then it's not getting edited. All right. So, Mercury in Libra, let's talk about that. So, Mercury in Libra, there's an intellect, um, a blend of intellect and balance here. This brings opportunities for our artistic, creative side and also enhancing our communication. And so we might even find like our words are they're more artistic or we're more diplomatic. Our communication is more balanced. We're much more eager to listen. So if you're somebody who struggles with active listening, this is a really good opportunity to practice those active listening skills. And what I love is the ability to see multiple perspectives. One of the things that I love to do in healing work is being able to look at multiple perspectives, and that it can be very challenging to look at a different perspective. And I like to look at it as like a bird's eye view, right? Taking the full scene in and taking everybody into account, and not just the one perspective maybe that you've had, but that other perspective of that other person or people in that dynamic. There's much more of a desire for harmony in our relationships, especially with us moving into that Libra energy with our sun. So we're really kind of amplifying this. There's a lot more charm and grace and beauty that flows through Mercury. And so when you think about Mercury, Mercury rules over our thinking, our communication, our short travel. And so you might want to in involve yourself in some creative endeavors and going to really beautiful places or artistic places, or even you being a little bit more artistic as well. All right. So, one of the things that we can look at during this transit is being more objective and understanding other people's viewpoints, right? Looking for compromises, really looking for that diplomacy here, and really being able to negotiate really, really nicely. Now, some of the challenges is that we might find ourselves being too agreeable. And trying to keep the peace, and so we avoid conflict. And so I'm going to bring back in what I said earlier with Mars and see how it falls into all these places. Clear is kind. Clear is kind, right? We sometimes want to avoid the conflict to keep the peace, but that actually creates more. So clear is kind. Indecisiveness, Libra can be extremely indecisive because the beauty of it being able to see all sides and all perspectives and wanting things to be fair and equal, that it can definitely get into a stall here with indecisiveness. There's also a tendency to sugarcoat things so that you're not rocking the boat. So I want you to just keep that in mind. This is, again, a really good time for negotiations, for improving your relationships, finding common ground between people, negotiating, and just overall making people feel good through your words. All right. Now, there is a couple of different things that I do want to share with you about this Mercury transit. So there's a lot that Mercury is going to be moving through this season, and so I do, invite you to be sure to listen to the weekly sidereal astrology forecast. That's a mouthful, because I will be diving into them more. But there is one that I do want to point out to you that is coming at the very end of the month, and that is Mercury and Uranus. So, Mercury and Uranus are going to come together down here on the 27th in an opposition right here. And so this, whenever we're talking about Uranus, things are a little bit more chaotic. Things are unexpected here. Uranus is a very radical energy. And so it loves to come in and just change things up. And so in our thinking, we might speed up our thoughts, our pace, and might get a little bit more more vibrant. It might speed up. It's going to lower our concentration or our ability to like focus. We can be really easily distracted here, kind of feeling a little scattered or even a little tense, maybe even some nervousness or anxiety. And I want you to think about this date and this timing here. This is October 27th, and this will be through November 3rd. This is right during our election period, right? Where we're having early bird voting. I'm going to recommend everybody go out and vote early. I don't care what you believe in. I believe we all that is a right that we have as Americans that we should always use. It's a beautiful experience, right? And so let's make sure we do that. And so it's during this period, and so there could be this tenseness, this scatter, this little nervousness energy here. I would say this isn't ideal for making any big plans or big negotiations here. It's going to take a lot more patience and self discipline just to stay focused and on track. But this is a really good time to kind of open your mind, to open your perspective, to allow yourself to go with the flow more. So if you tend to take things too seriously, first off, I have several different Breathe with Danny somatic breathwork practices that we do, are my mini healings in this 22-day challenge. Let me just say, I'll bring that back because it's one of the reasons why I did it, because we can go back and listen to it at any time. And it's just $22 to get access to the private podcast. But that's the thing, is like, if you are taking things too seriously, or if you're somebody that is like, it has to be this and it has to be that, this transit in particular can mess you up. Let me just say, I'm speaking from experience here. All right, let's go ahead and move into Mars. Let's talk about Mars for a second, because we've got a couple things going on with Mars that I want to point out. So first, we talked about the Mars square Mercury. I want to talk about its opposition to Pluto, and I also want to talk about it moving into Cancer. So let's talk about the opposition here to Pluto first. And again, there are much more transits happening here with Mars that I will be going through each week in the Sidereal Astrology Forecast. So with Mars and Pluto, right? I talked about it earlier. They are both very intense energies. They're both very powerful energies. And so when they're in this opposition, there are intense power struggles. This is where conflicts arise. And this transit, because we're talking about Pluto, which is a much slower moving planet, and we're talking about Mars, who is also slower, not as slow as Pluto, but it is one of the slower inner planets, this is going to be with us all the way through January 18th. 2025. So we've got the rest of the year and the beginning of next year with this Mars in opposition to Pluto. So we've got intense power struggles here. We've got conflicts coming. We've got urges to assert control or dominance over other people. This is also a potential for ruthlessness, for manipulation. This can be asserting without cooperation. So, really putting your ideas, your thoughts onto other people, or that happening to you. Now, some of the opportunities we have here is there is an opportunity for us to do some deeper work, some deeper transformation, because we are talking about Pluto, who is the planet of transformation, and Mars with that drive and motivation to do something about it. So it's almost as if it's like, okay, I'm done. Again, like, you're hearing me say this again because we're seeing this here with this solar eclipse. We're going to see this with the 1010 portal that I'm going to talk about in just a bit. And then now we have this here with Mars Pluto. So if you've been feeling like this energy building of like, I'm so done, my friend, like this is the period here, with all of this working for you to release all of this. So do some deeper inner healing, my friend. There's some intense, because this energy can be very intense, and your passions, or you're passionate about something, that can also come into play here. Your passion really coming up and coming through, which, hello, right? Who wouldn't want that? It is important, though, to make sure that you're channeling this energy in a very constructive way rather than the destructive way. So, being sure to make space within yourself. That's one of the reasons why I love somatic breath work, because it allows me to make space within my body so that I'm not at my capacity, and somebody cuts me off and I want to tailgate them. Right, this is why we release. And so if somatic breath work isn't for you, that's fine. There's other ways that you can release and express this energy. All right. So then now let's look at Mars in Cancer, because Mars will be moving into Cancer. As you can see here, it moves into Cancer on the 20th. And let me just say, Mars in Cancer, it is in its fall. It's what's considered its fall in astrology. And what that simply means is it it does not like to be here. So, Mars being that aggressive energy and Cancer being that loving, supportive, nurturing energy. Do you see the conflict here? So, a lot of moodiness, a lot of sensitivity here. Passive aggressive tendencies can come here. Think going around, like the Cancer is the crab, right? The symbol is the crab, and so the crab never goes direct. It goes around. It kind of like beats around. It doesn't hit it directly, and so there could be a lot of passive aggressiveness during Mars in Cancer. There's a desire to protect our home, to protect our family. Emotional security is important here as well as because Cancer is ruled by the moon, there's a fluctuation, right, of energy. That's one of the reasons why we follow the moon every single week. As Mars is our motivation and drive, there could be energy levels that are doing the same thing, right? You might feel really amped up and ready to go. Use it, because there's going to be a fall where you're not going to feel like doing anything and you just want to lay on the couch and watch Hallmark movies and eat popcorn and chocolate. Not speaking from experience at all there. But there is this need to balance assertiveness with nurturing. And so there could be some of this battle coming through where you're wanting to assert your energy, or you're wanting to nurture so much. So this is a really good time to look at some of those people pleasing tendencies, the beating around the bush energy, and really finding a way to come forward and say what you need to say in an assertive way, in love, right? In peace. I think that's one of the biggest things one of the biggest lessons I have learned is that I can still be assertive and ask for what I want in a very loving and peaceful way. All right, let's move into Venus before we talk about Jupiter in retrograde. So, as I mentioned, we kick off our Libra, our month here, October, with Venus in Libra, but Venus will be moving into Scorpio on the 12th here. So let me come over to the 12th so you can see this. There she is. She's right here, and she does have that opposition over to Uranus. Let me just say that starts on 1010. So let's talk about Venus in Scorpio. So when Venus goes into Scorpio, she is also at her fall or her detriment here. There's a lot of tension that tends to happen when Venus is in Scorpio. So Scorpio is the zodiac sign that is ruled by Pluto. So when you think of Pluto and its transformative energies and its deep, intense energies, its powerful energy, this is coming through Venus, who rules over our money, our relationships, our material world. So there's a lot of intensified emotions and desires here as it relates to our relationships. There could be an increased passion, jealousy, possessiveness, a desire for more deep interactions, more deep connections, more deep conversations, even. There's just more of like this intimacy that Venus is wanting. Like she doesn't want to be the life of the party. She wants to sit on the couch in the back and have the conversation, the deep conversation with somebody, the healing conversation with somebody where whether that is a healing conversation, whether you're diving into esoteric topics, or whether there's just a deep connection that you want to make with this person. So here, you're going to want to balance that intensity with moderation because it's kind of like, I want to go deep. It reminds me of like the movie. If you ever saw the movie with Reese Witherspoon, How to Lose a Guy in in 10 days, How to Lose a Guy in 10 days. And even though she is acting, right, but it's like that, she kind of like, it's very intense, right? Like he's Matthew McConaughey's like, what the heck? Crazy psycho, right? She's so intense. And I love when she's brings over the little chihuahua that's all dressed up and puts it on the poker table when they're having their poker game, right? It's like, right? It's a little much. It's a little too much there. And that's what it can feel like because we're wanting to go so deep, especially if that person on the other side isn't necessarily desiring that or wanting that. So keep that in mind as we are moving through that. So let me talk really quick about our Jupiter going retrograde. So Jupiter is going to go retrograde on the 9th of October. So let's get over there. And we'll see right here, Jupiter going retrograde. And so in sidereal astrology, Jupiter is in Taurus. And so this is going to bring a period of introspection because that's what we do. We reevaluate during any retrograde period. And so with Jupiter, we're looking at, because it's in Taurus, our personal values, our material world or material possessions, and our long term goals. So, this is a time for us to slow down. Taurus is slowing down, smelling the roses, and it's looking at our own path to abundance and success. Do you see why cosmic alignment has come in during this time? Because it's an opportunity for us to evaluate and to look at what is our path to abundance and success. So, reassessing goals and values is important during this time. If you haven't done a values assessment or a values elicitation, I would highly recommend sitting down and doing some values work. I would also recommend looking at your finances. How are you spending money? What does your investments look like? Is it time to take a look at your investments? Are you working with the financial advisor? Maybe call a meeting and sit down with them and say, okay, what's going on, right? Oftentimes we kind of put some of those investments and some of those things that we are doing, we kind of put them on the back burner and we don't really think about them. Or maybe we're not looking at where our money is going month to month. Like, how many subscriptions do you have? These days, it's really easy to have tons of subscriptions and not even realize how many subscriptions you have to all these different services. So there's a time to look at what are you spending your energy on, because money is energy, right? So where are you spending your energy? Also looking at self-worth. We can look at deepening our sense of self-worth or our own inner abundance. We can look beyond the external validations of the title or the material success and focus more on personal growth, personal values, what you personally, right? Success isn't the same for each and every one of us. In my 20s, success was a much different thing than success is here in my mid 40s. It's completely different. And success was different in my 30s. So reevaluating what are some of these things for you. There's also looking at relationships and looking at the ones that nourish you, the connections that are really filling your cup, and the ones that are draining you. Are there some relationships that maybe they're misaligned or they're no longer in alignment and they're not supporting your growth and your evolution and where you're headed? This is an opportunity to take a look at those as well. I would say practical steps towards your dreams. So reevaluating what are you doing to get yourself to that financial dream, to that business dream, to that life dream, right? In the way that you want to live. This is a time to step back, to be very practical about and methodical about what it is that you want and feeling into making adjustments as needed. All right. Our last thing here today is we're going to talk about this 1010 portal that takes place on 1010. So, right here on 1010, which I love because it's falling on a Thursday, which happens to be the day of Jupiter. This is a very expansive energy. Now, the if you look in numerology, 1010 is the energy of endings, and the one is the energy of beginnings or possibilities, and the zero is the end. Okay. So, and we can look at this in a bunch of different ways. But what I love about, so if we look at the actual number, we look at 10, 10, 2024. So 1010 in general, right? This idea of endings and possibilities. So we're bringing things to an end and we're filling into this possibility energy. This also is 1010 2024, which is 10, 10, and then 8, right? This is an 8 year, 2024. If you add those up, it's an 8. If we take the 8 plus the 1 plus the 1, we've got what? 10, which then goes down to 1. So we can look at this from a couple of different perspectives. We can also look at this as the high priestess in tarot, which is the first card. We can also look at this as from the number or the 10th card in tarot. We can also look at this as the 10th house, which is that what rules over the 10th house. So if we look at the 10th card in tarot, we're looking at the Wheel of Fortune. And if we look at the 10th house in astrology, we're looking at our professional persona, what we're known for in that professional space. And so the energy with all of these is success, is destiny, is possibility, is that spiritual intuition. There's a lot of this really, really beautiful energy here. So I'm going to invite you with this 1010 portal in particular to look at what are the endings. Again, we're coming off the solar eclipse in Virgo. So, what are those endings as we step into these possibilities? And what maybe timelines do you want to connect into that are your future version of you or the current version of you on a different timeline? And how can we get on that timeline? That's some things for you to explore as we move into this 1010 portal. We move into October 2024 with all that it is bringing us. All right, my friend, this wraps up our October overview in Sidereal Astrology. I hope that you have enjoyed this as much as I have sharing all of this information with you. Remember to subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the podcast, and look out for our weekly Sidereal Astrology Forecast. Well, I will go through each and every transit for you in more detail and talk about all the things that are currently happening. We just touched a very high level here, but I hope you've enjoyed this. Have a beautiful, beautiful October, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Have a beautiful day, my friend, in love and light. Take a nice deep breath with me and let it go and find peace.